I Don't Drive the Speed Limit by Tom Seast. Young Speeder. I got my first and only real speeding ticket driving on Springfield Road north of Delavan, Illinois when I was 19 years old. I remember that night like it was yesterday. I had just started driving my new diesel VW Golf. At around 4 a.m., I was headed to Pekin, Illinois, and decided it was time to see how fast the Golf would go and how it would handle at high speeds. Not an excessive speeder. I was never really a person that drove fast. I would say that most people that rode in the car with me would say that I was a safe, attentive driver. So I generally stuck to safe speeds while driving. That night, like I said, I was headed to Pekin. Once I got clear of the only intersection that was moderately dangerous at night, I accelerated the car to see how fast I could get it to go. It's a great place to try speeding because there is a nice downhill, and then you cross the Mackinac River Bridge and then go up a nice long hill, so it's generally an easy place to slow down. How fast? I really have no idea how fast I was going. The posted speed limit on that stretch of country road was 55 miles an hour at the time. The speedometer on the car only would go up to 85 at the time, and I was well past that on the downhill. When I crossed the Mackinac River at high speed, I looked to the right, and there was an Illinois State Trooper sitting there in his car with his interior lights on. And his eyes were as big as saucers as he stared at me flying by. Nice lad. He really was a nice lad. He flipped on his lights and started his pursuit, but I had already pulled over to save him the thrill of the chase. He was a little excited, as they tend to be when they pull people over at 4 o'clock in the morning. First question. After he asked for my license and registration, his first question to me was, "Do you know why I pulled over?" I kind of thought this was a trick question, but answered that he probably thought I was speeding. Second question. The second question he asked me was, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I politely answered that I had no idea because the speedometer was pegged when I came down the hill. So I was probably at least 20 to 30 miles per hour over that amount. Third question. His third question to me was, "Why were you speeding?" I answered politely that it was a fairly new vehicle to me, and I wanted to see how fast it would go and how well it would handle at higher speeds. I suspect that he probably thought I was a little nuts, but I don't drink or use drugs, so I wasn't likely looking out of sorts. True confessions. I then asked him how fast I was going. He said he didn't have his radar on, so he had no idea. So, complimenting my honesty, he told me he'd write me up for going 10 miles per hour over the limit, because there was no way of knowing the magnitude of my evil crime. The talk. When he came back to the car with my first ticket, we had a frank and open discussion about safety. I took the opportunity to point out that I was a volunteer that drove an ambulance part-time for the Volunteer Rescue Squad in Delavan, and that I felt it was important to know my vehicle and how it handled at higher speeds in case I ever really needed to drive it fast. I also pointed out that I only did it late at night because it was easier to spot other vehicles at night. He agreed that I made an excellent choice for my time trial, but probably didn't agree with my need to know. In any case, we parted amicably. I do not drive the speed limit. I rarely drive the speed limit. Many times I drive under the speed limit. Many times I drive over the speed limit. But I never drive unsafely. It's unsafe to focus on maintaining arbitrary speeds set by pompous bureaucrats in offices miles from where you're driving. It's my responsibility to stay safe while I'm driving, and I do that. No accidents. I've probably averaged driving close to 80,000 miles per year, and I've never had a two-vehicle accident. I have gone into the ditch in the snow when the road turned right and the car did not. I have had many narrow misses where other drivers have almost hit me because they have driven unsafely, but I've always managed to avoid the accidents. Drive safely. I take driving safely seriously. I test my brakes and steering each time I drive, and I test if driving conditions have changed even more extensively. But there are no guarantees. Even though I've driven as many miles as many professional semi-truck drivers do, I can have an accident tomorrow. My time could still come. Speed limits. If speed limits save lives, we should all drive 1 mile per hour because one death is too many. So let's eliminate the risk. Otherwise, we should just all drive safely, responsibly, and defensively wherever possible. And I'll pay the occasional fine because I was speeding. Risk-reward. There is no reward for totally eliminating risk, and there is always risk. And I don't intend to drive in a car full of bubble wrap with a 6-point harness and a roll cage until the day I die to eliminate the risk to me. Anxiety. If you feel at risk any time you drive, or every time you drive, or whenever you are put out on the town or in a car or driving, I hope you can find a way to deal with your anxiety. You surely are at risk, and always were, but you've been a champion and handled it quite well to date. Me. As for me, I'm going to drive as safely as I can. I won't assume that limits on others will save me, and I'll try to proceed with caution wherever I go. In any case, feel free to follow my ramblings at the links listed below.